The Talking Cheeseheads on CheeseheadTalk.com.
We're the Talking Cheeseheads, CheeseheadTalk.com, and of course you can find us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Talking Cheeseheads, where we have good posts every day, fun pictures of things like Kyle Loesch's pinky finger, and articles that we think are interesting and things you would enjoy. You can also check us out on Twitter. Our handle is @CheeseheadTalks with an S at the end, and I try to say interesting and compelling things almost once a week on my Twitter account. So we're joined here on the Talking Cheeseheads by Dave Ratcliffe of Yahoo Sports, who caught my attention with an interesting article about Rickie Weeks and the Brewers. I think most Brewer fans over the last, how many years now, 10, have experienced some frustration level with Rickie Weeks and times of joy as well. But the last couple of years that now have been challenging. David joins us at the premise of the article, and you can go check it out. I have a post up on our Facebook page and actually on the website, CheeseheadTalk.com as well. So give it a read. I think it's really interesting. But Dave joins us now. And Dave, I wanted to start off by asking you, you imply in the article that you think the Brewers right now should make a move and bring up Scooter Gennett, who's in AAA and ripping it up in Nashville and has hit at every level of the minor leagues. And you're saying that the Brewers should find a way to bring him up and give him a shot right now. Do you really think right now is the best opportunity, or do you think Weeks deserves at least maybe a couple hundred at-bats this year to pull out of this thing?
No, I mean, absolutely. I think the right call right now realistically is sticking with Weeks because, I don't know, I mean, you look at the options the Brewers have past weeks on the Major League roster right now, there really isn't anyone. And, with Gennett, he's obviously hitting, the cover off the baseball down in AAA, hitting 386 now, I think he's up to. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't know if you want to bring him up. Maybe perhaps stunt his growth because what do you do with Weeks? So I think you ride it out with Weeks. Maybe try and move him down in the order. Don't have him hit so high. Because I mean, sometimes that's a good way to get a player back on track. But yeah, for right now, I think you got to give Weeks a shot.
Yeah, and what would your tipping point be on this? I mean, last year they stuck with him all the way through, they stuck with him through the whole season, but he couldn't hit anything until really, late June. And at the time, we were kind of wondering what was going on. I bought into the reason behind it being that, he hadn't fully recovered from the bad ankle injury he had suffered the year previous, and I know he even played coming back from that the year previous, but maybe wasn't 100%, and I could buy into that. And then he, started really hitting well, and he ended the year at 230, which was, it's not a great average, but when you start off and you can't hit for half the season, it was really respectable and contributed to the Brewers' run to at least get back in somewhat of contention last year. This year, though, no real excuse, and I know, again, he's 77 at-bats into the season. We're 20 games into the season, so it's early, and everybody knows that. But it's a bit troubling because he has almost no production. He has 4 doubles, a home run, and 3 runs driven in. And here's a guy that, you see and you want to get him on base. You want to get him hitting because he can bring a lot to the game. And yet it just doesn't seem to be there, and there's no injury excuse this time. So you have to figure that given enough time, he's going to find his way at least to some more production, whether it be lower in the order or higher in the order. I mean, that's my feeling. What's yours?
Yeah, you would hope so. This year he's actually off to a slower start, believe it or not, than last season. I think it took him to get to 200, in June, but he was hitting like at least 180, 190 around this time, and he's like not even hitting 170 right now. So, you just hope you can somehow get him to get out of his funk. He's been, he hit the ball hard a couple times last night, so a lot of it is, bad luck, and he seems to just always find a glove when he hits the ball, which is unfortunate. But I mean, he does strike out a lot, so that's another concern. And
you'd think, you hope you can, and I think that is so true with Rickie Weeks. It seems to me that out of any Brewer that I can think of that hits the ball hard more often than finds gloves, it's Rickie Weeks. For whatever reason, I don't know if he, cursed the baseball gods as a kid or something, but it's really strange. So you're seeing that happen. Let me ask you this: what would you think? When Hart and Ramirez and hopefully this happens, they get back to full strength. Ryan Braun doesn't see any type of suspension or anything like that, and we're in the midsummer. And Segura, I'm not expecting Gene Segura to continue to hit 370, okay, but he's obviously doing pretty well, and if he can hit for an average around 300, if that holds true, I'd be hard pressed to see him coming out of the 2-hole. So do you think Rickie Weeks might be destined for the 6 or 7 spot in the order? Hard to believe that could happen coming into the season, but do you see that potentially happening when this team's back at full strength come midsummer here?
I certainly could. Obviously, I agree with you with Segura. I don't think he hits 350 all year. I mean, if he stays around the 300 mark, it would be obviously more than the Brewers could have ever hoped. So if I can see Segura kind of cooling off at some point, and then the way Ron Renick is with some of his veteran players, he trusts them a lot. I could see him putting Weeks back in that 2 spot, especially if he starts hitting well. But I mean, I would say you keep Segura in the 2-0 for now and give Weeks a shot down towards the bottom of the order. If he starts hitting well again, put him back up there.
Yeah, I'm thinking even last night, they have him where they have him 5th. I think he's got to be 6 or 7 right now. You just have too many guys who can contribute, and you're not seeing. I know the Brewers just got done with a 9-game winning streak, but you're not seeing a consistent offense that is, really productive throughout ball games. It's been more on their pitching. Even yesterday, they only give up 2 runs, but they've struggled to consistently score runs. And you go back, of course, a week and a half ago, and it was a 32-game scoreless innings horrendous streak for the Brewers. So something's got to be done to, and it's not just Weeks. I mean, clearly, some guys that aren't hitting particularly well, even Ryan Braun, are going to get more consistent. But Aoki at the top, and Braun and LaCroix is not even hitting for his normal average. So it's lineup wide. But I would think Rickie Weeks right now, Ron Renicke's move here as they go to LA for the weekend has got to be, maybe 6 or 7 hole at least for Rickie Weeks. I don't know that he'll do that, but it's probably what he should do, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he should be down maybe even 7th or 8th, especially when you got a guy like Gomez. He's hitting, I think, above 320 now, and you got to get a guy like that more at bats. I mean, makes things happen with his speed on the bases, and he's hitting consistently opposite field, going both sides of the field now. And I mean, you got to get those guys more at bats, in my opinion, and have Weeks kind of just figure it out down at the bottom, because the more at bats he gets, the more you're costing your team. Also, when he's hitting with runners on base, 5 spot is a place where you want someone who can drive in runs, who's productive, and Weeks hasn't been doing that yet this year.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the key. Killing some rallies. 3 RBI is really concerning. 20 games into the season. Again, it's early. We're talking with Dave Radcliffe from Yahoo Sports, covers the Brewers, and also contributes for the Badgers on BleacherReport.com, so you can check out his work there as well. So you take a look at the team overall, 9-game winning streak, kind of the Jekyll and Hyde Brewers here. But the biggest factor, I was talking about this yesterday on the podcast, Dave, that the biggest factor, I think, really has been, if you had to single out one thing, it'd be the bullpen. They were, again, really good last night. Estrada was good last night, only I think it was 1 earned run, right, because our fair player, Rickie Weeks, committed a kind of a bad error there. But, he did well. The starting has been much better, getting the team into the 6th inning for the most part, and sometimes into the 7th here. But the bullpen's been absolutely lights out, and all of a sudden John Axford the other night's hitting 97 on the gun again. And there's a lot of positive signs there as far as the Brewers being able to hold teams down. You don't expect it to continue at this level. They're certainly in a hot streak right now, but it's an encouraging sign because that this offense will produce here as the season rolls along. So, there's a lot to be encouraged about, I would think, about this recent stretch here for the Brewers.
Yes, the starting pitching has, they've reeled off a lot of quality starts. I don't know how many in a row now, but it feels like a lot, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good to say about the rotation, at least, when your worst pitcher has been Gallardo, really, as the season has gone along, because he's going to turn it around eventually. But early in the season, you're kind of wondering about these bullpen acquisitions because they were, blowing some games and having a rough go of it. But as of late, they've really pulled it around. I think they're in the top half of the league in ERA, the bullpen is. And, last night even they come on and keep you close. And especially before you get Ramirez and Hart back, you hope that pitching can continue because that's kind of what's been carrying the Brewers so far this season. So if they can continue that and keep the Brewers up near the top of the standings,
Yeah.
before they get those two big bats back in the lineup. That's very encouraging.
Yeah, it is, and it was so discouraging. In the first 10 games of the season, they go 2-8. So their first 10, they're 2-8. Second 10, they're 9-1. To make for a 11-9 start to the season. So we'll see what pans out. The real Brewers are probably not either of those two teams. But you look at again what's going to come through. Let me pick your brain on this one. When Melvin made these moves to revamp the bullpen, in the offseason it was, okay, we're not going to make any real moves as far as the starting pitching is concerned, and then, of course, they signed Kyle Lohse right before the season starts. But probably a definitely necessity-type move there.
Yeah.
But the bullpen was restructured because it was not good last year. And, you bring in a lot of new names. What was your impression at the time? And we're seeing now the performance once the starting pitching has settled down a little bit and can make quality starts. You're seeing the bullpen fall into shape, and even we'll see what happens with the closer role here. But even if Henderson keeps doing what he's doing, it's hard to pull him from that role. Maybe Axford becomes a great setup man, and they maybe flip-flop through the season. Not a bad problem to have. But did you think that the bullpen moves that Melvin made at the time he made them, so going back and thinking, okay, how's this going to play out this year, what was your impression at the time? Did you think that the bullpen will end up being a very serviceable one this year, or do you still have some concerns there?
Well, yeah, every time you go out and acquire relief pitching, in my opinion, it's a risk because you never know if they're going to have an up year or down year. At the time, though, I thought it was a great decision to go out and get some of these guys. They had great numbers from last year, and to get rid of pretty much everybody from last season except Henderson and Axford. I thought, those are guys you wanted to keep, even with Axford having kind of a down year. He came on strong at the end, and he's shown the ability to succeed in that closer's role before. So I thought they were all pretty good moves, and then obviously you had a few more spots to fill out. And personally, I was kind of hoping to see someone like Johnny Helwig from AAA, who's got a really live arm, but probably needs a little more time to develop down in AAA. But I mean, right now those moves are looking great. You got situational guys like Gonzalez is starting to get lefties out, and Gorzelani, he can get both sides out. He's turned into like almost a setup man along with Axford. So right now those moves are looking golden for the Brewers.
Yeah, hopefully it continues. We always talk about the early portion of the season. We're only in April, but they've recovered from their bad start. Kind of now that the streak is over, a chance to see what they can do this weekend in L.A. And they've got a tough stretch coming as far as the rest of April and May, as far as just playing teams that are competitive. A lot of division teams. They got the Reds and the Cardinals and the Pirates in there a lot. And you look at really this team getting through Memorial Day. Let me ask you this: do you think they will be, a 500 club or better come Memorial Day, when it looks like that'll be the point at which they can be full strength offensively again?
I think they will be. I think they'll probably hover around that 500 mark. You've got to figure there's going to be a little more consistency compared to what we've seen so far this year. It's been quite the roller coaster ride, but I think you got to like what you see from your starting pitching. They've got guys. What I really like about them is they incorporate the changeup, like Estrada and the new guy Burgos throws it, and Lohse. I think that's really a pitch. If you can control it, it can be one of the most effective pitches in baseball. And so far, they've been doing that. They've been throwing strikes, getting strikeouts like Estrada, and Lohse obviously with his sinker gets a lot of ground balls. But I mean, if they keep that up with their changeup, I think that's a big pitch to keep them in games. And I mean, as long as the starting pitching keeps them in games, they have a chance to win every night. So I think just because of that, they stay around 500. And who knows, maybe even go on a bigger run and are sitting pretty by the time they get some of those guys back by Memorial Day.
Well, I've been saying it from the start. I know it's going to be a fun team to watch when everybody's in the lineup and healthy, because there's a good solid lineup in place there when everybody does get healthy. And I'm assuming things. I hope I'm not cursed here and that we have to deal with a patchwork lineup for the entire season, but hopefully come June, weather's nice, lineup's good, and we'll have a lot of fun out at the ballpark this summer. Dave, thanks. We'll talk to you again. Your articles again at Yahoo Sports. You contribute for the Brewers, and also when the Badgers become another hot topic, maybe we'll catch up with you as well as far as what your work is with the BleacherReport.com and covering Wisconsin football. So my appreciation. Thanks, Dave, for coming on, and we'll talk to you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ben.
All right, that's David Ratcliffe of Yahoo Sports. And again, catch out the article about Rickie Weeks and what the Brewers should do or consider in the future. It's on our Facebook page at facebook.com/talkingcheeseheads, and then also our site itself, cheeseheadtalk.com, and you can check out and read David's work there.
Cheddar with attitude. The Talking Cheeseheads on cheeseheadtalk.com.